Welcome to the IIBA webinar series. Today, I'm delighted to invite His Excellency Mr Sandeep Kumar, Indian Ambassador, to be speaking for us. Now, this is an interactive session, so I would ask all participants to put their questions on Q&A. That would be really helpful. As people are joining, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about the IIBA and what we're doing currently. We're running a webinar series, and we're also running a number of interactive networking sessions and also working groups. So please sign up, please join those, because the more dialogue we can have, the more we can move through to the next session. So, greetings everyone. Welcome, Your Excellency. You joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1985, and you've served in various missions abroad: Croatia, Hong Kong, Hanoi, Paris, Cape Town, and Kabul. You've also worked with the UNDP in Afghanistan, and you've also worked for the Indian Ministry of External Affairs in West Asia and North Africa. So, a lot of background. You've been an ambassador in Croatia, and you've been about 18 months now in Ireland. So how are you finding the current situation following COVID-19?
Well, it's been a challenge for everybody, and I firstly would like to thank you, Kanthi and IIBA, for inviting me on this panel. I don't know how many participants we have here, but a warm good morning to each one of them. And I want to say that even during the time of the pandemic, the Indian Embassy stayed open for essential services. We were still coming to office. We were still running our consular services for emergency purposes. We were getting visas as required. There were lots of employment visas as well, as people did go back to India to join various companies, and we also had a few number of nurses who came from India under new employment schemes to help out as frontline workers in various medical institutions in Ireland. So we've been coping well. We've been trying our best to assist the Indian community members who found themselves stranded because there was the ban, which is still in place, who were distressed, who felt anxiety. And these comprised of large cross sections of people, which were elderly people, tourists whose visas had expired. There were students, and we have around 5,000 students throughout Ireland. And the overall number of the Indian community in Ireland is around 45,000 or so. And
wow, as much as that?
Yes, it's a huge number, and of which 1,500 had registered as being stranded and who wanted to go back. So there was several mechanisms which were put in place. There were community support groups which were established in all major cities, which comprised of people from different walks of life, different professions. These included community members, doctors, clinical psychologists, academics, business people who could help out and offer support for finances, for accommodation, student visas, and also do counseling for depression and anxiety. And then we set up structures in various universities, in all the major universities, PCB, BCU, UCD, UCC, the National University, Galway, Limerick, Athlone, where they had special support structure mechanisms in place to help out students in the time of pandemic. And we also had very effective partnerships with the Indian associations, with the religious bodies, with voluntary groups. And I would like to say that the Sikh temple in Ireland, which is the Gurdwara, every single day they were delivering 700 food packets to frontline workers in hospitals, at Garda stations, to the fire brigades, etc. And even on the streets, when they were recognized by the Garda at red lights, and they were clapped for. So it was a huge achievement for them. We are very proud of all the work that the Indian community members did in terms of showing community solidarity, resilience, determination, and most importantly, adherence to HSE guidelines for social distancing, for face coverings, for washing of hands, sanitization, etc. So it's been a huge process. It is still continuing, but we are very committed to help out in every possible way.
Indeed. I mean, that when you first came, you talked about reaching out to the 26 counties of Ireland in order to build the relationship. It sounds very much that you have been doing that in the last few months, in more ways than one.
No, Kanthi, that's correct. Last year itself, I had visited 20 counties as part of our outreach program. And in each county that I went, one of the major initiatives was to reach out to the local chambers of economy, to meet with the local business people, to let them know that the embassy would be very supportive of holding seminars or workshops at the local level to share experiences, success stories, challenges, and most importantly, ways to overcome those challenges through creative, out-of-the-box mechanisms. So I've done that, and even once the travel restrictions were opened last week, the very second day I was in Sligo. I met with the political leadership. I met with the university president of Sligo. I went to the hospital. I went to thank all the Indian and other nurses in the Sligo University Hospital, which is the main hospital in Sligo, to offer our greatest salutations to frontline workers who have offered exceptional services in exceptional times, going beyond the call of duty, putting their own lives at risk so that we could be safe. And then I also went and met with the chamber people. I met with the newly elected mayors of the county, the mayor of the city councillors, and the one key objective was to see post-COVID how we could enhance the business and the educational relationship between India and Ireland.
Thank you. You talked about the travel restrictions being lifted to some degree. I get asked again and again, what is the situation right now in India? What is exactly happening in terms of on the ground in India?
You see, we started off well with good management systems and good containment systems through technology, through administrative measures. But India being 1.3 billion people, with so many states and so many migrants who were stranded across the country, who had no mechanisms to travel back home because of these lockdown conditions. So gradually the lockdowns have been lifted to be able to bring a balance between economic livelihoods and the health considerations. But despite that, today there's an alarming rate of increase. There are more than 700,000 positive cases, of which a large number have recovered. The rate of recovery has been going up, and at the same time there have been around 20,000 deaths. With respect to per capita ratios, it's still a small number, but obviously these are not statistics. Every single death matters, and every single person who died led a full life, was loved by people, made contributions to society. So it is a loss to the society, to the family, to the community, to the country. So, those are issues we have to continue to challenge with. But the government at the same time also took measures to be able to handle the health and the economic crisis. With respect to the economic crisis, they laid out a package of around $265 billion, which was 10% of the GNP. And we saw in Ireland that the financial package was around 8.5 to 10 billion euro, which was around 4.5 to 5% of GNI. So compared to that, our overall GDP ratio with respect to this package of 10% was rather high. And this was to help in different sectors, mostly the informal and the informal sectors, the migrant laborers, the farmers, the agriculture sector reforms. Now they can even go out and buy their produce, to sell their produce to anybody, even outside the state where they are in. So various measures were put in place. We needed to help the small and medium enterprises, the grassroots enterprises, the big industry, and this was also done through the banks, through credit expansion, through loans, especially to SMEs without collaterals or at very low interest rates. And this was accompanied by labor reform, by different sector reforms, so that all could be put together. But we can get into all the different aspects, and this was also viewed in India. Of course, it's a big challenge, but we are also convinced that with national resolve, with government reforms and with industry adaptability, we would be able to make the economy rebound progressively as we go along. And you are right that you mentioned to me before separately that the World Bank has said that the Indian economy would be contracting around 20%, which is absolutely correct. But at the same time, we believe that even in this challenge, there could be opportunities for us. And we will come to the opportunities with respect to Ireland later as we go along. But just at a larger level, I want to say that there could be opportunities for us. For instance, we could start writing our history of health diplomacy, because even during this time, India was able to supply HCQs to several developed countries as well, including in Europe, US, Kuwait, etc. Even to Ireland, we supplied around 1,500 MTs of paracetamols. And there's manufacturing possibilities, especially when there is a disruption in supply chain across the world, a lot of them coming from China. And there is concern there. India is opening up, particularly for manufacturing in the pharmaceutical sector. So that is one sector we could do that. And then we have these alternate technologies which comprises of a whole range, whether it is iCloud, whether it is iMessaging, robotics, automation, geotracing, anything that would make India IT companies vibrant. And linked to that is data protection, it is cyber security, which would also provide new opportunities and innovation for the Indian companies in this field. And I would also just like to add, before I pass on to you, that we have now, like the rest of the world, been focusing on Make in India, local, self-reliance. And for that, there have been huge, opening up which has taken place in the form of project development centers, which have been opened in various ministries across the government portfolio, which will assist the investors to come and get one window clearances, online monitoring and evaluation, project implementation and assessment. And at the same time, there is also a group of empowered secretaries in the various ministries who would oversee that process and work together with the PDCs which have been set in different ministries to help foreign investments to come into India. And there has been an opening up of foreign investment limits, direct investment limits, in even key sectors like defense manufacturing, in coal mining, and 4 airports have further been privatized apart from the rest. So there are many possibilities and opportunities even in this challenge.
Thank you. We've had one of our members who said, Michael McDonnell, who's saying, thank you very much for mentioning Sligo. He's pleased that you think so much of Sligo. I would ask our attendants here today, this is your opportunity to ask the ambassador any questions that you would like. Please do put your questions in the Q&A section on this webinar. We've had a question from one of our members, Corporate Relocation, who say, as an Irish business, which is heavily based on Indian nationals coming to Ireland for work, their only question is on the opening of travel between India and Ireland. What are you seeing currently, Ambassador?
I think that's a very relevant question. We fully understand the compulsions of opening up international travel for business, for tourism, because these are the sectors which have been most affected by the pandemic. But at the same time, considering that in India, the infection rate has still not been contained. It is still rising in some pockets, even while in Delhi, etc., there may be a flattening of curve. We don't know as yet. And at the same time, even many countries which have done so well in Europe, including Ireland, they are apprehensive that there could be a second wave. And Ireland itself is looking at possibilities whether they should open up, air travel internationally for tourism or not. And before, it's not going to happen before 20th July in any case. And even for that, they would be having a list of countries where the people would be encouraged to travel and others where they would be encouraged to avoid. So I don't think it's going to be, we would have any answers very soon with respect to opening up of the international travel ban. But at the same time, there are repatriation, special repatriation and charter flights, which have been allowed by the government of India to take back stranded Indians from across various destinations, including lots of destinations in Europe. And there were two such flights even from Dublin previously in May and in June. And there were around 600 people who have already gone back. And when these flights come to these destinations, they are not empty. They also carry back citizens of those countries or Indians who are in India, in various destinations in India, who would wish to travel back to the countries where they have work. So if there are any people, Irish companies here who have Indian nationals who are stranded in India and would want to come back to join their workplace, they can use these flights, special repatriation flights under the government of India's Vande Bharat mission, where they can go online and do direct booking through the Air India website platforms. And they can use those flights to come back. And if there are no direct flights now to Dublin, they can come to various destinations where there are these special flights currently, like Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Paris. And from there, those people take connecting flights to Dublin. And lots of people have done that. It is happening. And as I said, there are also lots of nurses who have come from India to Ireland through these destinations to take up their new positions. But then I would also like to say, and I'm sure you would dwell upon that later, but today it's all about remote working as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not about the workforce being at your, at your workplace, but rather how creatively we can adapt these new technologies, which are also good for the protection for the your workers, as well as make it more efficient. And I would like to come back to Sligo, because just last week, when the travel restrictions were lifted, I also visited a local firm in Sligo called SF Controls and Automations. And they were telling me, well, he was, when I went to his office, there was nobody in the office except the CEO. And he said, I came to work specifically to meet with you. And he said that now most of the people would continue to work from home. And he said that that has its advantages rather than disadvantages. He said now there are far less people who are reporting sick because they're sitting at home. And then, of course, there is no commuting. And we are monitoring all that every Monday morning. We are having a webinar conference. We are giving them tasks which they are supposed to submit for the rest of the week. So there are ways and systems to be able to still be productive and still be creative in adapting to these new normals of doing business, even while sitting at home.
You talked about digital technologies. I mean, we've all had to bounce into digital technology like never before. One of our biggest working groups in the IIBA is the ICT working group, and that's representative because there are so many Indian companies who have set up in Ireland who are in that sector. What do you see as possible benefits that there could be for India and Ireland working together now in that particular space?
See, as I mentioned, that Ireland has a lot of strengths in high-tech areas and technologies of artificial intelligence, in geotracing, in robotics, automations, 3Ds. And I know that Ireland is also, it has expertise in blockchain technologies, RFIDs, 3D printing, virtual reality, applications, software solutions, Internet of Things, etc. And these are some of the areas that the Indian companies are also making to adapt to the new normal. So there is a lot of possibility for collaboration, even while with this disruption in supply chains, there has been exports have been hit both ways. But I think IT and pharma exports and services have been more resilient, while dairy and agriculture, have been the losers. So with these services where we still have scope in these sectors to be able to work with Ireland, export our services, and likewise for Ireland to share with us these technology transfers, the know-how through public-private partnerships or direct transfers, this will be very helpful in the coming future.
Okay, thank you. Supply chain technologies, you've mentioned supply chain technologies. That's almost like the lifeblood, and it will be, of the globe going forward. How is India progressing in the supply chain technology area?
You see, we have also been adapting to the same technologies where Ireland has strengths, and I've been speaking to the Federation of Indian Chambers, to the Confederation of Indian Industry representatives, and this is the new normal. And basically, it depends on the industry now, how well and how creatively they can adapt to these technologies to make an opportunity out of challenge. In a lot of ways, it's good that these up-end technologies are coming forth and being manufactured and adapted appropriately, and how we can work with Ireland for these supply chain technologies is precisely how we can make use of their technical know-how, whether they would be willing to share with us. And I have been now in touch with several Irish companies, including researchers in the various universities, and particularly the focus has also been because Indian government wants to leverage the Indian diaspora. So we have also been in touch with the Indian scientists, with others. And I would like to share with you, we talked about Sligo, I would also like to bring in Galway. So there is at the National University of Galway, there's an Indian scientist who has developed anti-bioagent swipes for decontaminating surfaces of bacteria, viral, etc. And they've done this in association with the Irish Defence Services. And the funding has come from EU. So we've been talking to them. This could also be very relevant to India. New technologies. So there are various, institutions. I was again in Sligo, again coming back. They are doing some research on nanotechnologies. Again with 6 institutions in Ireland, 6 institutions in India. All this was going to make us self-sufficient, both Ireland and India, and the new normals of being productive, of coming together, of seeing what this diversification of supply chains could be, and how we could contribute to being self-sufficient in that.
Thank you. One of our attendees, Andy O'Connor, is asking what you would say to India startups and entrepreneurs about doing business in Ireland.
I would say to them that this is your chance. This is your opportunity. Whether we named all these areas about artificial intelligence, about all the high-tech areas where Ireland has its strengths and which complements the strengths of India. Whether as we said, robotics, 3Ds, automation. Now's your chance to come up, and the Indian government with its package that I said of $265 billion, kind of economic livelihood package, has also got incentives for Indian ICTs. And even before all this happened, Indian ICT was one sector that the Indian government is putting a lot of focus on, which has exports have been growing. We have been giving a lot of incentives to new ventures. So many private companies have also come on board. They are linked up. They are offering incentives. They are offering rewards, support systems. They are working with the government to encourage, especially the new startups. And similarly is the case which I saw in Ireland, even during the pandemic. I had been visiting some of the new startups. We've done studies on that startups of Ireland. What are the new startups? What are the innovation aspects? We have shared it with the Indian industry to seek partnerships. And we are very encouraged. And I don't think this trend is going to be dented by the pandemic. It's only going to be enhanced because there is far more opportunities now. Yeah, and then you link it to all that, domain of new technologies for cybersecurity, data protection. Because that is also now going to, when you're going to rely so much on these alternative new technologies, then you need to protect them. So I think everything will come forward, and when this is the new normal, how people will adapt, and I think they have the best opportunities. So I want to say to them, the Indian government, the Indian embassy is very willing to work with them. We are very committed to helping out, to assisting them in whatever way that we can. And please make use of the Indian government packages for new startups.
Indeed. An interesting question has come in from Sundar Karthikeyan. Working from home is becoming a new normal in the current post-COVID-19 era. This will mean more workers in India who deliver services to international destinations such as Ireland are required to connect from their rural hometown locations. Are you aware of plans for Indian government to up the spend on broadband infrastructure in rural areas? We see a lot of remote workers still are moving to urban areas to depend on good broadband connectivity. Do you think India and Ireland can work together in skill sharing and investment in improvising the rural broadband infrastructure in India?
Kanti, this program was ongoing in the form of Digital India. It is an $18 billion program which is, envisages for a digital economy, electronic services being provided. And this was making quite a big of headway because the whole ambition was to have whole of India connected. And there are a lot of opportunities for Irish companies also through their high-end technologies to be able to participate in this. As I said, that it also gives a lot of employment. It's a high-value end product program, and the Indian government, with faced with the challenge of the pandemic and manufacturing and connectivity, becomes so important. I'm sure that they would be giving far more importance to this program and also try to leverage all its strengths and resources, including foreign direct investments, to be able to advance this program at a faster speed. And I hope that the Irish entrepreneurs will also be able to take part in this huge revolution, which is digital India.
Thank you. Mike McGrath is asking whether you think that Brexit will actually help in terms of the India-Ireland opportunity.
I've always said yes. And the Irish government has said yes. And the Irish government has always been very keen that Ireland should be the next speak-to country after UK's exit because of its various advantages. It's English-speaking as far as India is concerned, common law, high-skilled workforce, low corporate tax, a pro-enterprise government policy, and now we have Leo Varadkar, who's also handling this important portfolio in his second avatar as the Deputy Prime Minister of Employment and Trade and Job Creation. So definitely Ireland has placed itself in an advantageous position, and it's not just Ireland and UK or Ireland and EU. It's also Ireland and transatlantic US. And as we know, that there's a huge bridge between Ireland and US. All the customs immigration formalities can even be done in Ireland for passengers traveling to US. And that was one of the reasons we have also been looking at direct flights and to be able to flaunt our case and merits of the case for a direct flight between India and Ireland. We have been saying that if for commercial viabilities, there could be many passengers traveling from India to Ireland who are on the way to the US because of these facilities that Ireland offers. So I think it's, there are distinct advantages, and then you have that whole, pharma sector, the agriculture sector, the high-end, high-tech sector in Ireland, fintech, agrotech, medtech, all these sectors which are relevant to India. So I think there's a lot of possibility for collaboration. Of course, we would want a good trade agreement between between EU and UK, which would also impact upon Ireland. And if it's more favorable for Ireland, it's more favorable for its partners. So we're just hoping that this agreement would be reached within the timeline. I think there's no going back on the side of Britain to ask for extension of timeline. But I just hope it's not just a flimsy agreement. I hope it's a substantive agreement, which could benefit both Ireland and UK, which would also have repercussions for Irish trade partners like India.
The Ireland India Business Association has a number of working groups, such as ICT, as I've already mentioned, education, agribusiness, aviation. If I was to ask you, what would be the sort of trade opportunities between Ireland and India going forward? Would we be considering a different working group?
I think you have the right, all the sectors covered, and I have attended some of your functions, and I have seen, whether it's aircraft leasing, whether it's ICT, whether it is pharma. These are the sectors which are important. And for trade, last year we had about 1.1 billion trade between India and Ireland. The services sector is stronger. It's around 4 billion if I'm correct. And that's where our strengths are. And we should continue to focus on that. I know that there are 70 or so Irish companies which are currently in India, and they are around the same number of Indian companies which are in Ireland. I hope the trend continues post-COVID, and we will make it continue. We will try to make opportunities out of challenges, as I said. And even with these opportunities out of challenge, I may here bring in TCS. As we all know that TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, I don't know whether the head of TCS is joining us today.
Yes.
If Deepak is there, hello to him. And globally renowned company in technical solutions. And they have also floated a software which is very relevant in today's time, which they have offered to the educational institutions in Ireland on a trial basis for schools and institutions to be able to go online and remotely do all the assessments for school curriculums and markings and teaching systems. So I'm hoping that this would find favor with the Irish education systems here, which would be a good opportunity for them to float this program in Ireland. There's a test trial run going on at the moment. But in trade, I think there are several opportunities in these areas. There's much more that we can do. But then there's also limitations with respect to tariffs and non-tariffs, which is not controlled by Ireland. It is within the EU forum that this is all controlled. Then we're also still struggling for a free trade agreement, bilateral investment protection between Ireland, between India and EU. And I hope those talks have been stalled for a long time. I hope those would get on. During the pandemic, the Indian Minister for Commerce and Industry, he had a video conferencing with all the EU ambassadors. And we had a very good discussion on how there could be opportunities, how we could have mechanisms to enhance trade and business between EU and India in various different countries. And we are working on those. A report has been submitted. And there was also, I must say that there was, maybe I'll just take a little bit of time just to say that there was also based on all the discussions, there was on COVID, global supply chains, and what impact it has for India. Just very quick impact recommendations which were mentioned was in terms of global supply chains which would also impact on trade and business and investments. They said, number one, leveraging existing capabilities. We already do have some existing capabilities. Companies that are already manufacturing in India and can be helped by the government to scale up production to cater to a wider demand, both locally and globally. And number two, they said that identify companies and sectors where India has already a strong supply chain and has the potential to go up the value chain. We have to just focus at different levels. And this could be pharma, chemicals, auto industry, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, electronics, mobile manufacturing, which is important. And the focus, to shift to components and parts manufacturing, which is going to be important. Then focus on industries and companies where minor enhancements in quality of products which are being exported to Asia can then be fit for export to US and Europe. And these are again white goods, electronics. And then you have support for companies which have already announced moving production into India and create incentives for localization. This is Amazon, Apple, who have already announced plans to move into India. And then there is to export, push for newer markets where manufacturing capabilities are low and the quality of demand is high, like African countries. So there are lots of these recommendations. We can share them. There's quick impact, there are medium impact, there are future impact, and all these will have, if leveraged appropriately, to be able to see how we can enhance trade in services, in goods between India and Ireland. In post-COVID, despite the economic downturn, but still we are all, both India and Ireland, trying valiantly to make our economies rebound, at least in 21. And we have also heard about the Irish economy, where the European Commission has said that it would contract by about 8.5% in 2020 before rebounding in 2021. And if there were, and the central bank has said that the economic rebound would come maybe later in 2024 if there's a second wave. But we just have to see, there's so much uncertainty with respect to the pandemic, as we all know, and we are just trying our best to make all these calculations and and try our best to see how we can just plug in and do our best in adapting to the new normal, working from home, new technologies, and being creative. This is, history will judge us how creative we have been during the time of the pandemic in tackling this, whether we buckled, doing the old way of doing business, or we adapted and created a win-win for each other by adapting to the new normal.
Yes, I mean, the flexibility and innovation that both India and Ireland as a culture portray will stand them in good stead, I would think, for the next years to come. I'm very curious, how is India progressing in the context of the progressing the vaccine?
That's such a great question because we all understand that there are more than 120 something efforts ongoing throughout the world, whether it's Australia, whether it's Southeast Asia, China, US, Europe. But the Prime Minister's office is directly overseeing and reviewing the planning and research effort which is going on in India. The Prime Minister of India, he participated with other leaders in a virtual summit on global vaccine where he committed $15 million to the Vaccine Alliance. But within India itself, the Central Drugs Standards Control, which is under the Indian Medical Research Academy, has approved human trials of Covaxin by Bharat Biotech, which is an Indian company, and another one, Zycov-D vaccine by Zydus Cadila. And phase 1 are expected to start for trials in the near future, maybe early next year. But we are just hoping that, and we are following also various other processes which are happening in UK and US and Australia and other places, and where even the Irish researchers are involved to see how this can go forward. But the whole community, the whole research community needs to come together, in bringing out a solution to this such an amazing, unprecedented crisis.
Indeed. What would you ask of our members in terms of the business community? We have some people from India as well on the line today. What would you ask from our members in terms of helping the bilateral trade piece move forward? I've asked you what's going on at a governmental level. What would you think, having been here for 18 months now?
I think there's a great degree of resilience and adaptability on the part of the Indian industry. I'm hearing that sentiment coming forth very strongly amongst the major industries in India. There is resolve, there is sense of adaptability, innovation, invention, and despite all the challenges, they are looking at those aspects. I know in Ireland, I've met with a lot of them, all the major Indian companies here. I see that same spirit of going forward, of making, the best use of adversity. The Indian Embassy is very committed to working with you. We are a small embassy, but we would do everything possible to enhance your business opportunities here. We've had some interesting developments even just before the pandemic. For instance, in Trinity College, we had a session of all the top Indian companies, CEOs based in Dublin and in Ireland, to have an interactive brainstorming session with all the heads of the research departments at Trinity College, where they all came together to see what could be that interface between research and industry. So they came up with a good round of suggestive topics, how they could, and we hope to do that in different universities, just to link the university, the research, and the industry. And we will continue once these restrictions are lifted, or we'll go to virtual platforms. And a lot of our work is happening on virtual platforms. We also celebrated the International Day of Yoga, which was, we actually went out on Dunleary, beautiful harbor. Following all the social distancing norms and HSE health protocols, we had groups of 15 each. So 4 groups of 15, which meant 60 people. We had the TDs, we had the newly elected mayor, and we dedicated it to the frontline staff of Ireland. So we had representatives from the nurses, we had the fire brigade people, we had the ambulance people, we had the police, and they were all there on the mats doing yoga. And we dedicated a dance, a song, everything was dedicated to the frontline staff, because they showed such excellent community spirit, sense of duty, determination, etc. And I would also say that in the new normal, there are possibilities for India to go forward. And I would appeal to the Indian businesses to also take those aspects forward in your business culture environment. This aspect of the new normal of Ayurveda, of yoga, the new way of Namaste, as you saw that very famous picture that even in the White House, Leo Varadkar and Trump were doing Namaste rather than shaking hands, which represents a whole new value system. The Indian spices of healing, like whether it's haldi, whether it's turmeric, whether it's other spices, which were found to be very effective in containing or preventive healthcare measures in this time. And we would also be taking up the issue of institutionalizing chairs of yoga or Ayurveda in the various universities. I've spoken to some of the heads of the universities of Trinity, UCD, DCU. There has been an interest of now how we can actually institute chairs funded by India at these universities. And when we had our International Day of Yoga last year, the wife of the president, Sabina Higgins, made a very passionate plea of how yoga can be incorporated in the core school curriculum in Ireland. And today we saw that with the pandemic, it is the same value system of connectivity. Yoga means to connect the mind, the body, the communities, the societies, the individuals, the inner aspects to the outer environment, the balance. And these were the very core values required also to tackle the pandemic. Community spirit, mental determination, mental health to balance the physical health, civic responsibility. So we saw that, and this is being embraced, it is being recognized now. We need to leverage these different systems. We also have lots of Indian healthcare workers in frontline positions throughout Ireland. This pandemic would also give us the opportunity to recruit more nurses, more medical consultants from India to Ireland. This would again be one of the legacies of the pandemic, that it opens up possibilities in various ways for taking forward the new norms. And I would also say that in both India and Ireland have been elected on the UN Security Council seats for 2021 to 2022. So we would have an opportunity to work together, sitting next to each other, India and Ireland in alphabetical order. We will be sitting next to each other at the Security Council 21, 22, and and we would see how we could work together for the global good, including of course business for the larger good, and how to find sustainable solutions after the pandemic.
Congratulations. You've got 18 months behind you in this current role. What are you planning for? What are you seeing? What are you going to be driving in the next few years?
Well, I'll be here for another 1.5 years or so, and we have started an ambitious program of provincial outreach. I hope to be able to build on that, to make it sustainable. I would need to travel to all these, to the remaining counties, and to build solid institutional platforms. We have set up, as I said, the community support groups representing different professions in various cities. Even after the pandemic, they can be our institutional mechanisms for interacting with the embassy, helping us organize events at different levels, being our support systems, our advisors in various fields, including in the business field. We will, of course, be wherever now personal meetings are not possible, we will be adapting those to virtual platforms. Already Prime Minister Modi has spoken to almost all his counterparts during the pandemic on telephone. He also spoke to Leo Varadkar when he was at Taoiseach, which was in April, and they had a very productive conversation on exchanging information and experiences on containing and managing the virus in many ways. Leo Varadkar acknowledged the role of the Indian nurses and medical consultants as frontline workers. He thanked the Prime Minister for their role. They talked about possibilities of collaboration post-COVID in medical research, in medical equipment manufacturing, and high-tech areas that we mentioned before. We will be taking up these opportunities. And the Prime Minister also invited Mr. Varadkar at that time to support the International Day of Yoga. And because we all understand that there is a huge number of institutions throughout Ireland of people who practice yoga, who teach yoga, and even while we were in lockdown, we had various virtual platforms of our own, whether it was yoga class, whether it was meditation classes, online dance classes, cookery classes, Indian films shown online. So those will be the new norms which we shall continue to work on, and even in the rest of my tenure here, we shall be promoting those virtual platforms as best as we can, where there is no possibility of physical meeting. And then I would be working very strongly for a visit by the Taoiseach. It hasn't happened in the past, although I tried last year because of the scheduling. It didn't work. But with the new government in place, we will try. I've already made a proposal. We will try to schedule a visit when it's possible, when it's mutually acceptable to both sides, for the Taoiseach to go, because when he goes, then he will take with him a big delegation of business people, of academics and researchers, so that that gives a fillip and momentum to our relationship. We had been preparing last year for that, several agreements to be signed that we had in education, we had in culture. We were also hoping that this will provide a push for our momentum for direct flight between India and Ireland, which will provide greater thrust to business and tourism. We will continue with all these proposals. I have been in touch with the Research Science Foundation of Ireland for identifying the next phase of collaborative projects between India and Ireland. And we have linked them with the Department of Biotechnology in India. And they will be able to identify those projects. In every field, we have a program of action. Culturally, we had a program for introducing a major festival of India, supported by the Ministry of Culture, to spread out to all of Ireland in various fields: dance, music, exhibitions, Indian cuisine, etc. We were supposed to kick it off in March, but that's exactly the time when the pandemic broke. So we've had to cancel that. Hopefully, it will take place next year in whatever format as is feasible. And we shall continue to support the soft power programs of Indian films, which are very popular globally, yoga, Ayurveda, to leverage them to the best advantage of both our sides. But in whatever we do, as you understand, that economic strength and relationship going forward would be the key. So we would be doing everything possible to invite the Irish industry to take part in our flagship programs, Make in India, Digital India, smart cities, 100 smart cities to be equipped with smart technology, smart environment, smart architecture, where Ireland can play a huge role. So we will be looking at that, and we fully understand the challenges. If we want to be self-reliant, we want to invite investors of Make in India, we also have to do a lot of things ourselves. We have to invest much more in ports, in roads, airport structure. We need to take forward the reforms, structural reforms in labor and other aspects, and we will be committed to do that. I would like to say that India has ambitions at the regional level, at the global level, but at the same time, we understand that with ambition comes, and with global leadership comes responsibilities, and we are very committed to undertaking those responsibilities. And together, we want to take forward the whole role of economic recovery through national resolve, adaptability, structural government reforms, and people's participation. And in that context, we would also continue to build public-private partnerships. The industry is very important to us. The government just cannot do it alone. We need to build partnerships with the industry. And one of my goals would also be, Kanthi, which I hope you would appreciate, is to build stronger working relationship with IIBA. And with CII, with Confederation of Indian Industry, with Federation of Indian of industry based in London. So we will be working with all our partners. We have continued with our newsletter, which has been going on every month. And we will continue with all our other major economic development and relationship building programs between India and Ireland in economic field, in political field, cultural field, science and technology field, and education field. I said to you that we have more than 5,000 students. Currently, a lot of them have gone back because of online classes, but I believe a lot of them would be coming back in September. They're already in huge clamor for having flights now in the reverse direction from to be able to participate in, take back again their jobs, etc. And I would also like to express our most sincere appreciation to the Irish government for handling the crisis in the way that they did, with determination, very effectively, with the financial packages that were offered, and the unemployment pandemic payment was also benefited by Indian nationals who had lost jobs, Indian professionals who were laid off, by students who could not, who were working and then had to be laid off. And it was a very generous package of €350 per week, up from 203. So, these were measures which really helped a lot of students and a lot of Indian nationals to survive during the time of the pandemic. And I would like to congratulate and express my appreciation to the whole industry, the Indian industry and other industry, who helped out in this time of pandemic by being members of the community support groups, by offering counseling services. There are a lot of them I know who have also taken on Indian interns, even though those programs were postponed or have gone online. But a lot of them have done so, and they are still recruiting people because, within the IT sector, even this company which I visited, the first company I visited after the lockdown in Sligo, as I said, SF Controls, they're still looking to recruit people. This is a positive trend which is happening, and despite all so much negative aspects, there are lots of positive aspects, and we need to just build on those.
Thank you. We've got a couple of comments from our attendees. Lorraine Woods from UCD. She says that I would like to thank the ambassador and his team for all their direct communication and support provided to Indian students in Ireland during the previous few months. From speaking to students, I'm aware that they have very much appreciated the support from the embassy. So that's an appreciation of you. And then this is from Tanaz from the IIBA based in India. And she says, Ambassador Kumar has made a substantial impact since his arrival in Dublin. I can't help but comment on his statement that while there are challenges in present times, they do open opportunities as well for companies on both sides. The two countries share a rich history. Many companies, large and small, can benefit by working together, and today they have a supportive Indian ambassador in Ireland. The IIBA and the different Irish government agencies are all ready to support them. So I would endorse that as well. We've really appreciated your participation and collaboration with us as you've been here. And I really hope that going forward, we can come up with some new, more out-of-the-box ways of creating bilateral trade, because I think it's brilliant that right now we can engage with Indian companies online at the same time as we've got Irish companies online. So that whole we've got to travel to India or they've got to travel to Ireland doesn't happen anymore. We can actually have those dialogues. So I'm really looking forward to coming up with some great ideas. And as I said to the participants, don't forget our networking. If we can start having regular networking events, that will be a big start as well.
Well, thank you very much. And this has been a very useful platform to interact with the members of IIBA. And I welcome all those comments. I thank also IDA and Enterprise Ireland, which have been so supportive of the industry, not just during the time of the pandemic, but even before that, and they will continue to do that. We have an excellent working relationship with them. And interestingly, when I went to India this time, which was last September, on my home leave, I actually visited Mumbai, and both the Irish ambassador in India and myself jointly we addressed the business community in Mumbai through the European Chamber of Commerce and spoke to them about the business opportunities in Ireland. So that is a unique event as well, both the ambassadors addressing the local business.
Indeed.
And Tenaz was there as well, and thank you for facilitating that. And I would also like to thank her because now she's taken over the role of the head of IDA in India, in Mumbai, where they have a consulate which was opened only last year, which is again a testimony of their commitment to expand relationship between India and Ireland by opening a new consulate in Mumbai last year. So this is again a new feature in our relationship. We hope to build on that, and we hope to have that inaugurated when the new Taoiseach visits India, hopefully in the coming future.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you very much. And thank you to all our participants. Please do look at the IIBA website, www.iiba.ie, to see what's coming up in the future. And if you have any queries or you want to interact, contact us on info@iiba.ie. Thank you all very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.